Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare. Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare. Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Srimad Paramahans Paravrajacharya's Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, Shri Giri Govardhan Ki, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Go Premanande. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 14, the story of King Vena, text 20. Text 20. Tasmims tushte kim aprapyam jagatam ishvareshvare loka sapala hi etasmai haranti balim adrita tasmims tushte kim aprapyam jagatam ishvareshvare loka sapala hyetasmai haranti balim adrita tasmim stushte kim aprapyam jagatam ishvareshvare lokasapala hyetasmai haranti balim adrita tasmim stushte kim aprapyam jagatam ishvareshvare lokasapala hyetasmai haranti balam adrita. Tasmin, when he, tushte, is satisfied, kim, what, aprapyam, impossible to achieve, jagatam, of the universe, ishvara ishvare, the controller of the controllers, loka, the inhabitants of the planets, sapala, with their presiding deities. He, for this reason, etasmai, unto him, haranti, offer, balim, paraphernalia for worship, adrita, with great pleasure. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped by the great demigods, controllers of universal affairs. When he is satisfied, nothing is impossible to achieve. For this reason, all the demigods, presiding deities of different planets, as well as the inhabitants of their planets, take great pleasure in offering all kinds of paraphernalia for his worship. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. All Vedic civilization is summarized in this verse. All living entities, either on this planet or on other planets, have to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by their respective duties. When he is satisfied, all necessities of life are automatically supplied. In the Vedas it is also stated, Eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman, Kata Upanishad 2.13. From the Vedas we understand that he is supplying everyone's necessities, and we can actually see that the lower animals, the birds and the bees, have no business or profession, yet they are not dying for want of food. They are all living in nature's way, and they have all the necessities of life provided, namely eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Human society, however, has artificially created a type of civilization which makes one forgetful of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Modern society even enables one to forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead's grace and mercy. Consequently, modern civilized man is always unhappy and in need of things. People do not know that the ultimate goal of life is to approach Lord Vishnu and satisfy him. They have taken this materialistic way of life as everything and have become captivated by materialistic activities. Indeed, their leaders are always encouraging them to follow this path, and the general populace, being ignorant of the laws of God, are following their blind leaders down the path of unhappiness. In order to rectify this world situation, all people should be trained in Krishna consciousness and act in accordance with the Varna Ashram system. The state should also see that the people are engaged in satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the primary duty of the state. The Krishna consciousness movement was started to convince the general populace to adopt the best process by which to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus solve all problems. Tasmims tushte kim aprapyam jagatam ishvareshvare lokasapala hyetasmai haranti balim adrita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped by the great demigods, controllers of universal affairs. When he is satisfied, nothing is impossible to achieve. For this reason, all the demigods, presiding deities of different planets, as well as the inhabitants of their planets, take great pleasure in offering all kinds of paraphernalia for his worship. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyacha Dejatarane. Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyas chakri prasindu pyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So this is the saintly people speaking. The great devotees are speaking. And actually they're making a number of points. The first point that Srila Prabhupada focuses on in the purport is that this verse summarizes just everything about Vedic civilization. The essence of which is that all living entities, wherever they may be, in whatever country, in whatever culture, even on whatever planet, they have to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by their respective duties. Respective duties, ideally, as Prabhupada indicates further along in the purport, respective duties ideally are duties according to Varnashram, in terms of a person's physical, psychological nature, and then dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if you don't really know what your duty should be according to Varnashram, if you don't really understand your nature, then as Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, verse 27, whatever you do, just whatever you do, even if it's not really according to your nature, but it's just what you happen to be doing, somehow or other, by circumstances or like that, it should be dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pleasure. That's the main point, that whatever is done must be dedicated to the Lord for his pleasure. And even if what you're doing is not what you would do, what you might do, if you were able to understand what is the best thing for you to do, what really comes naturally for you to do, and you have the opportunity to do it, that's there, but it's not as important as dedicating whatever you do for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's first and foremost. And then second is, as much as possible, if it can be according to your nature, that's good. We mentioned the other day, Tuesday, how Lord Caitanya made the point when he was talking about Varnashram, that if people, even if people are doing exactly what they should be doing according to their psychological and physical natures, even if they're doing that, so it's really just that they're where they should be in terms of Varnashram in that sense. But if it's not done for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if it's just done independently and just like completely independently without any consideration as to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Caitanya there says in Caitanya Charitamrita that people who do like that will go to hell. That's pretty dramatic. Even if they're doing exactly what is there for their natures, like Arjuna, he was a Kshatriya. That's what he was by physical and psychological nature. But if he had done that, but not for Krishna, it would have been very problematic. It would not have been right at all. So this is the thing. We have to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by our respective duties. And then when he's satisfied, all necessities of life are automatically supplied. Yes. Automatically supplied. Eko bahunam nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yova dadati kaman. That there are two categories of eternal living beings. One category has many members, huge number of members. The other category has one member. So Eko, the one, Eko, Bahunam, for the many, Yova Dadati Kaman, has been fulfilling their desires. From time immemorial, the one has been fulfilling the desires of the many. So, yes, the situation is like that. And even, Prabhupada makes the point that by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nothing is impossible. If the Lord decides that He is going to facilitate you in even the most sort of incredible way that you can't imagine and you never would have even desired, but if the Lord desires, then we all know the incident with Srila Prabhupada when they were about to embark on the project of publishing Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, that they had been publishing. They had a team, and the team was working. It's not that they were just lazy or taking their time. They were working. And they were qualified people when it came to publishing books. And they were publishing a book every 2 months. And they thought, that's good. We're doing all right. So then Prabhupada, on a morning walk, he sort of challenged. it ended up as a challenge, but initially just sort of asked, how many books are you doing? Or how often are you publishing a book? And the devotee, his name was Radha Vallabha, he was the BBT production manager. He said, well, we are doing a book every 2 months. Like, he wasn't feeling embarrassed. He was feeling, yes, we're doing it, it's okay. And Prabhupada said, well, we want to produce the books much more quickly. And Radha Vallabha said, Prabhupada, we will double it. We will do a book a month. And he thought, Radha Vallabha thought, that this is good. This is really, Prabhupada will probably say, oh, double it. Oh, that's very good. Thank you. But Prabhupada said, no, I want you to do all the, how many, 16 was it? Or something, I think 16 volumes. I want you to do all the 16 volumes in 2 months. And Radha Vallabha said, but Prabhupada, that's impossible. But as the verse says, when he, the Lord, is satisfied, nothing is impossible to achieve. He might have even said in 1 month. Yeah, so this Radha Vallabha said, but Prabhupada, that's impossible. And Prabhupada famously said, everybody knows, what did he say? Impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. Shri Radha Radhanath Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Excusez-moi. Bear with us. Anyway, we'll hope for the best. Yes, so impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary, and Radha Vallabha accepted it, and they launched into the program on that basis. He could have said, well, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary, and we are fools. So impossible is a word in our dictionary, so it's impossible. But anyway, they accepted it, and they did it. Yeah, Devamrita Maharaj was part of it, so he can, tell you details. It's really an interesting, amazing story, actually. And finally, they finished the last book. They got it printed. They were printing the books in America. And one devotee took a special flight all the way to India, and he went to Vrindavan to deliver the last book to Prabhupada. And he did. And it was 2 months and 1 day from when Prabhupada had given the order. And Prabhupada said, you are 1 day late. Prabhupada didn't say, oh, you managed to do it. Oh, well done. No, you are 1 day late. So, yes. And this applies to ourselves in our humble little positions in Krishna consciousness, trying to do this and trying to do that in the service of the Lord. You'll be surprised when it really comes down to it. We will be surprised what we can do. Hare Krishna. What we can do when we really sort of tune in to the Lord. Tune in to Srila Prabhupada and really dedicate ourselves heart and soul to satisfying them. Even like in book distribution marathons, I remember the first marathon back in about 75, maybe 74 perhaps, or 75. And devotees were asked, particularly in America, the devotees were asked, how many books would you like to do? And different devotees said, I'll try and do some number. I'll try and do some other number, which they thought, these are like, if we can do this, this will really be an achievement. But many of them did quite a number of times more than they had expressed, like just the desire to do, even though when they expressed that desire, they didn't really know how they were going to do it, because it was a lot more than they'd done in the past. But then when the time came, if I remember correctly, one devotee, Sarvabhauma, he had pledged to do like something like 50 Srimad Bhagavatams a day, which was, thought to be astronomical. On his best day, he did 126. And when the Lord's mercy acts, when the Lord's mercy really comes in, then the devotee can actually feel that it's not really just, it's not me, like I'm trying hard, I'm doing this and I'm doing more than usual because I'm trying hard. But it's sort of like the devotee may apparently be floating in an ocean of mercy. So that's there. That when the Lord is satisfied, nothing is impossible to achieve. And Prabhupada gives the example of the animals. Of course, they're not following Varnashram as such, but they're definitely following their natures. And they're not God conscious. As far as we know, they're not God conscious. So, but Prabhupada makes the point that the lower animals, the birds, the bees, they have no business or profession, yet they are not dying for want of food. The only ones which are dying, they are dying for want of food, are those who are living sort of on the boundaries of human civilization. And human civilization is interfering with them in so many ways. And as a result, they're not able, they just don't have access any longer to their food resources, which they had access to before the humans started encroaching on the areas they were living in. So therefore, sometimes we say, you never see a skinny, undernourished elephant. I don't know if any of you saw. Maybe we haven't seen many elephants other than in the zoo. But you don't see, other than those who are struggling due to the encroachment of human civilization. So Prabhupada makes the point, all these animals and different creatures, they're all living in nature's way. And they all have the necessities of life provided. For eating, sleeping, mating, defending. They don't have to worry about eating, where will I sleep, mating, how to find a mate. In modern society, quite a number of people can't find a mate. Not that they, usually at least, not that they don't want one, but the way society is organized generally, it just becomes too difficult. Anyway, yeah. And defending, my Lord. What a situation the world is in terms of defending. It's literally crazy. So the problem, the only real problem, is that human society has created an artificial type of civilization which, just by how it's constructed, makes one forgetful of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada, the point he then makes, if you think about it, it's really interesting. Prabhupada makes the point, modern society even enables one to forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead's, not just to forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but to forget His grace and mercy. They're enabling, facilitating, yes, helping people to forget the mercy of the Lord. You know, there's a famous story which one devotee dreamed up. I mean, there's a few of them in this regard. One devotee had an appointment in the center of the city for something, and it was time-bound. He had to be there on time, otherwise he'd miss out on something important. So he drove into town, and now he's trying to find a parking place on the block where the place he's meant to have his meeting is situated. But he couldn't find a parking place. He goes around one time, can't find a parking place. So, now he thinks, gosh. First of all, he was thinking, yeah, I'll just park and go to my meeting. But now, can't find a parking place. So what did he do? As all good devotees do, he prayed to Krishna. Krishna, please, help me find a parking place. And he drove around the block again, no parking place. So, again he prayed to Krishna, please Krishna, please help me to find a parking place, please. This is important. And he drove around the block again, no parking place. So then he prayed to Krishna, Krishna, you know what? If you help me, if you let me find a parking place, I will follow every Ekadasi without fail. I will chant all my rounds every day. And I will read Prabhupada's books every day for at least half an hour. But please, let me find a parking place. Around the block again, and there's a parking place. And he drove in, and as he drove in to park, he thought, I'm really glad I found a parking place. If you get the idea. Did you get the idea? I'm really glad I found a parking place. Patting himself on the back. Yes. So modern society is constructed, organized in such a way, systematically, in detail, to help you. It's almost not just to help you to forget the Lord, but to make it almost impossible for you to not forget the Lord. It's just so, the energy, the impetus to forget the Lord is so strong. you have to be pretty determined to remember him, just by the way modern society is, the consumer society, and the systems of working and political systems and the production of so many, too many things. And like the internet, too much information. You know, there's a saying from the old days, knowledge is power. But now there's just so much knowledge there. It's like you just become overwhelmed with knowledge, and you become dysfunctional because you know too many ways to do one thing. So it's working like that. And not just forget the Lord, but as Prabhupada says, it enables one even to forget the Lord's grace and mercy, which is a great shame because there is so much grace and mercy, just so much grace and mercy for someone who's not overwhelmed by just everything in modern society. The Lord's grace and mercy is basically obvious. You'd have to be a fool or something antagonistic towards the Lord to not see it. It's right there in front of your face in so many ways. After all, by his arrangement, we have these bodies. And then we have the facilities for these bodies and so on and so forth. And it's all coming, at least ultimately, by the grace, by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But modern society facilitates, encourages us strongly, not just encourages us, but it almost forces us to not think about grace and mercy, but just to think about how we can do this, how we can do that, and intelligent arrangements that man has made. Another little story you might have heard of, and I don't know if it came from Prabhupada, but Prabhupada heard it, is that the man is fixing his roof on his 2-story house, and it's on the roof's on an angle, and so he has to watch out, but somehow or other he slips. And as he's sliding down the roof and he's about to go over the edge and just get smashed 2 stories down, he prays, "Oh God, save me, please." And then he goes over the edge, but his overalls catch on some big nail or some big something which is sticking out, and he's caught and he's saved. And he thinks, gosh, I'm so glad I put that nail there. Anyway, yes. Oh, Krishna. It's amazing. So then Prabhupada makes another point, which is really extremely important, that consequently, because human society is arranged in all these ways which facilitate and encourage forgetfulness of the Lord and his mercy and anything to do with that, therefore, consequently, modern civilized man is always unhappy and in need of things. And particularly because people don't know that the ultimate goal of life is to approach Lord Vishnu and to satisfy him. They've taken the materialistic way of life, the consumer way of life, as everything. and they've become captivated, captured. They have been caught, and to the point they can't escape. They've been caught by materialistic activities. And then, to make it worse, you could say, or just part of the whole formula, is that the leaders, or the so-called leaders, are encouraging that. Yes, that we, the leaders, the government, we will facilitate more production and more work so you can get more money and just live more and just enjoy more. I've mentioned many times when I was a child, early youth, something like that, I saw a television show, documentary, about J. Paul Getty, who at the time was the richest person on the planet. And in this documentary, the interviewer asked him, "Mr. Getty, do you have a philosophy of life?" And Mr. Getty said, "Yes, I do, actually. I have a philosophy of life. My philosophy can be summed up in one word: more." And that's sort of, in a nutshell, in a nutshell, that's the essence of it all, not just for him, but for everybody. So, but unfortunately, even though these leaders, these so-called leaders, they make so many wrong decisions, it's crazy. Like now in England, so many people are regretting exiting from the European Union. Many people are regretting it. Majority of people are regretting it. And they see it was stupid. It was a stupid mistake. But the problem in that regard is that the people in general still follow those leaders. They still follow those leaders. It's amazing. Even though every government that has existed in the history, like at least in the history of democracy, every government which has existed has been kicked out in due course. Every single one, they have been kicked out. But then they sort of reincarnate themselves a bit, and the people vote for them again. Hare Krishna. Anyway, we're not really so interested in politics, but this is what's going on. So Prabhupada makes the point, concluding the purport, in order to rectify this world situation, all people should be trained in Krishna consciousness and act in accordance with the Varnashram system. The state should see, the government, that the people are engaged in satisfying the Lord. And Prabhupada makes the point, this is the primary duty of the state. Prabhupada makes this point on a number of occasions. The state, the government, has many duties. They have to manage the finances, they have to manage the military, the security of the nation. They have to manage so many things, the water supply and whatnot. But actually, the primary duty of the government is to see that people are engaged in satisfying the Lord. Other things are secondary or even beyond secondary. So this is why Prabhupada makes the point, this is why the Krishna consciousness movement was started, to convince, anyone as much as possible, including the government, if we can If we can convince the governments, great. But actually, to convince the general populace, because if the general populace become convinced, they're the ones who appoint the governments. So if the general populace becomes convinced enough of Krishna consciousness and doing everything to satisfy the Lord, then they're not going to vote for these other, crazy people who just really, literally don't know what they're doing. Yes, so the Krishna consciousness movement was started to convince the general populace to adopt the best process by which to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus solve all problems. Otherwise, they'll continue to be unhappy and be forced into situations where they just fail in their lives and they just get into useless positions in life. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any comments or questions, Maharaj? Correction, chastisement, words of wisdom.
The Prabhupada has given the essence, that I said that essence of the Vedic system is explained in this verse. Also, Prahlad Maharaj also says the same. Tushti tatra kimalabhyam anantamat. So when the Supreme Lord is satisfied, everything is satisfied. And Prabhupada in all the purports also say that we must serve for the pleasure of Radha Krishna. Wonderful verse it is actually.
Thank you. Thank you. That's good. Shri Prabhu.
That idea of more seems to be all-pervading. There was one, I never actually heard the song, but somebody told me there was a country song where the person sang that I'm just a very simple man. I really only need 4 things: older whiskey, younger women, faster cars, and more money. But that more does work well when it's Krishna consciousness. I find more chanting and more reading seem to work well.
Right.
So that will work in the right place.
Right. Thank you.
And very badly in the wrong place.
Oh, right. Thank you very much. Mataji. Radha Thakurani.
Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful class. So the question is that it's not that we take pleasure in serving the Lord or that we serve the Lord, but in Bhakti, it's that we get into the consciousness of spontaneously wanting to serve the Lord, that it's not just we do it out of duty, that we should aim to, at some point, spontaneously, beyond duty, serve the Lord.
That's a comment.
It's the question for this.
Well, okay.
For this verse.
Yeah. Spontaneously is an advanced level, but at least we should do it. At least we should do it, one way or the other. No, what is it? Yena kena prakarena. Mana Krishna Naveshayet, something like that, Rupa Goswami said. What, in this way, or in that way, or in some way, think of Krishna. But yes, the more spontaneously we can do it, the better. But it's a more advanced level. And we should, but it's good if we like doing the service we're doing. Yeah, we're happy doing it. You know, back in the old days in England, for a brief period of time, there was a philosophy in our temple in London that if you like doing a service, you shouldn't do it, because then it'll just be sense gratification. So you should find a service you really don't like doing, and you should do that, so then you can be detached and, just do it because you have to. But it's not really our philosophy. But what we're asked to do, we should try to do, and generally we can do what we're asked to do because Krishna gives some mercy. And even sometimes we're asked to do something we've never done before and we never thought of doing, and then we think of doing it and we think, gosh, I don't think I can do that. But then if we try, then we get some mercy and we can do it. So we are primarily rendering service on the basis of rules and regulations, the order of higher authority. And if we carry on doing like that, gradually spontaneity will manifest more and more. Yes. Is that okay? Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Online, the top thing is broken. So Madan Govind Prabhu ordered it, and we will get it after some days. Yeah. So temporary condition is this, but I couldn't put it rightly, I think. So it can be put in the table also, and it can adjust here also. The top one is broken. Sometime after a few days it will come new. I will try to paste. But we've got all sorts of things. Don't be surprised when we've got so many. In Joba. Okay. We've got more here. Okay.